Hey guys, Hop here. Today we're attempting to answer a very important question. Is the new DPMS Kitty Kat a faithful reproduction of the original? Okay, at least it's important to me. The newly produced kitty cats from the newly resurrected DPMS Panther arms look like perfect clones of the classic DPMS RFA1-Kitty Kat. The only problem is, I don't know if DPMS ever actually made an RFA1-Kitty Kat. I know they did A2 style fixed carry handle upper versions, I know they did flat tops, I know they did some with free float full length handguards, but I don't know if they ever actually produced any with the classic A1 style upper receiver. We're going to attempt to answer that question today with every tool I have available to me, with the exception of just emailing somebody and asking them, because I'm afraid of talking to strangers. Stick around. This video was made possible by our channel sponsor, Venture Surplus. I am out in the Badlands tonight, and it is early summer, which means there's about a 40-degree difference between the daytime and nighttime temperature. So I'm going to have to layer up soon, which means putting on a waffle top. And then 2 days from now, it's supposed to rain, so I'm going to have to layer up again, and that's going to mean putting on a Gore-Tex layer. Guess where I got them? Venture Surplus. It's where I buy most of my clothes these days. I'm also going to have to heat up some dinner pretty soon. I didn't bother to bring a stove, so I'm going to be eating an MRE. You'll never guess where I got it. Venture Surplus. That's right. If you go to the video description, click on the link to Venture Surplus, use the code provided, you'll save 10% off your order of waffle toppers and Gore-Tex layers and MREs, sleeping bags, tactical gear, magazine pouches, wubby blankets. At this point, hopefully the list is like fading out so we can kind of move on. Alright guys, I'm back in my studio with my kitty cat and my DPMS Kitty Kat, and we got to talk about this situation because I sort of assumed that there was such a thing as an RFA1-Kitty Kat. I know from looking at DPMS catalogs and pictures of official DPMS guns that they made an RFA2 and an RFA3. So DPMS uses the nomenclature RFA 1, 2, and 3 to refer to their different style of uppers, so an A1, an A2, and an A3, essentially. The company was started in 1986. The AR market wasn't nearly as big back then as it would eventually become. Of course, DPMS would grow a lot after the assault weapons ban sunset, but like 30 or so years ago, the AR market was quite a lot smaller. And with all the DPMS catalogs that I see, you know, like pre-2010 especially, they always have options. It's like, hey, when you're ordering this gun, you can get it with an A2 receiver if you like, or spend an extra $50 and we'll chrome line the barrel for you. You know, that was pretty common back then. So my assumption was that because DPMS made their guns in an A1, A2, and an A3 variety, that the Kitty Kat would have been available in all three. However, it's really hard to find direct evidence of that for a couple of reasons. Mr. Sacco, what do you want, bro? You want more attention? You're interrupting this video, and you're shedding a lot too. Part of the problems of the original Kitty Kat was an SBR, and it was only offered for sale to law enforcement. So there's a strong possibility that a lot of the ones that you see on ARFCOM and other forums are actually just essentially tribute builds. Somebody who saw it in a catalog somewhere or heard about it, saw it on a range or whatever, and was like, man, I really want to build my own version of that. It's easy to find posts about the Kitty Kat where guys are upfront about the fact that it's a, you know, a homebrew that they put together themselves based on the DPMS Kitty Kat, if not actually a DPMS Kitty Kat upper itself. There are also other posts from guys who say, yeah, you know, I know it says law enforcement only, but I called them and I was like, hey, can I just get the upper by itself? Or, hey, I have an SOT, can I get the whole gun even though I'm not a cop? And it seems like in at least some of those cases, DPMS said, yeah, sure, why not? This is just one of those times where it's interesting to be reminded that the gun industry used to be a little bit less consumer-friendly than it was now, and there was probably also a much lower standard of knowledge about the NFA. There's no reason the Kitty Kat couldn't have been sold as an AR pistol back then. I just think that really wasn't on a lot of people's minds. Sorry, I gotta pet this cat for a little bit. Have a slight Sacco attention break. So, in my mind's eye, the DPMS RFA1-Kitty Kat exists. I've always seen people talking about the Kitty Kat and saying that they prefer the A1 version because they like A1 carry handles. That's not evidence that they ever actually existed, just that people really like A1 carry handles. Don't know why, it's worse. Also, all of the pictures that I've seen of A1 style Kitty Kat uppers are quite possibly just, you know, tribute builds or some other company who built a gun based on the Kitty Kat. Like, remember, I did a video about the DSA Puppy Dog, which was a Kitty Kat style upper made by a different company, so they called it something else. Anyway, I went on eBay and I started buying old DPMS catalogs, like this really excellent one from 2010, which is sort of a dealer-focused catalog, so it includes not just the versions of the guns that they don't actually sell to civilian buyers, but it also shows you not just what the retail price is, but what the actual price is, which is not something you'd ever put in a catalog you expected the consumer to see, because you would be basically telling them, hey, here's what your dealer's paying for this, don't offer them a penny more. Because yeah, the only thing worse than gun shops is customers at gun shops. So let's talk about the features of this, the new production Kitty Kat from the new DPMS, and talk about ways that it may or may not be clone correct. One of them obviously is the carry handle. Maybe they never made an A1 carry handle. But there are some other obvious external features that differ from the Kitty Kats that we commonly see pictures of and this new production one. One of those is barrel length. This is advertised as having a 7.5-inch barrel. The old Kitty Kats were often advertised as having a 7-inch barrel, and if you compare pictures of them, yep, the barrel on this new one does look a little bit longer. I took the flash hider off of this thing and I measured the barrel, and the true distance from bolt face to the end of the barrel is 7.75 inches. If you knocked 3/4 of an inch off of this barrel, then the base of the threads would be just about even with the bayonet lug, so there would be no way to get the barrel any shorter without shaving off the bayonet lug. So that's a strong indicator that 7 inches might have been chosen because it was as short as you could make this thing without getting rid of the bayonet lug. Kind of like how the Dissipator has a 16-inch barrel because to go any shorter, you have to remove the bayonet lug. History lesson there for the real Colt 605 back in the day. They did remove the bayonet lug, and that's why the barrel length on those was actually 15.5 inches, not 16. Fun fact. There is another super shorty AR that people like to talk about. It's the Olympic Arms K23B, which was advertised as having a 6.5-inch barrel, and in fact, it does have no bayonet lug, and it does look shorter than a real DPMS Kitty Kat. However, in the case of the Olympic Arms, I bet it's like 6.75 inches. I think a lot of manufacturers just use the half-inch increments because they seem cleaner. Mr. Sacco has fallen asleep. What a freaking goober. Holy cow. Another detail that the keen-eyed viewer may notice is that the handguards on the new production Kitty Kats have a section of knurling in the middle of the tube, whereas if you look at pictures of old DPMS Kitty Kats, they actually have more of a slotted style smooth handguard. Originally, I thought that this knurled tube style handguard was really just a popular choice among cloners because this is actually an off-the-shelf part. This is a national match free float tube handguard. They made them in a bunch of different lengths, including pistol length. So pretty much any of the Tribute Kitty Kat builds would have used those national match handguards because they were commercially available, and as far as I know, the only place you could get the slotted Kitty Kat handguard was from DPMS directly. However, you can find it in their catalog, and it's not in any way marked as being a law enforcement only item. They also sold barrels, often marked as being 7 inches long. So there may be some Kitty Kat Tribute builds out there that have a legit DPMS barrel and handguard, but they use their own receiver, meaning it could be an A1, A2, or A3 style. There are also some minor internal changes, like for example, the barrels were originally heavy profile, phosphated, and chrome lined. This one is a thin profile, which it has to be in order to make for a true A1. It's also nitride finished, which wasn't as common back then. And instead of the 1-in-9 twist rate, this has the much more modern and common 1-in-7, which has no downside, so you might as well just go with the 1-in-7. I also found information on old forums suggesting that DPMS's carry handle uppers did not have M4 feed ramps. This reproduction version does have M4 feed ramps, which is a bit of an anachronism. A lot of the guys who are really serious about cloning retro rifles go to great lengths to source uppers that do not have the feed ramps, as well as sourcing barrels that have a rifle extension rather than an M4 or carbine extension because, again, it's more clone correct. I think that stuff's more or less for the birds. If you really wanted the clone correct gun, you should track down the original. If you're just making a reproduction, especially if you actually want to shoot it, who cares about the internal changes? Nobody's going to be popping the pins of your upper at the range and saying, hey man, your feed ramps are wrong, get the hell out of here. So in my searching for DPMS catalogs, the oldest one that I was able to find is this 1996 DPMS catalog. That means this was their 10th anniversary. Company started in 1986. 10 years on, they are already making the Kitty Kat. I'm not sure how long they've been making the Kitty Kat for. In 1996, you can see that the version of the Kitty Kat shown has some unexpected features. It has the national match handguard with the knurling rather than the later slotted style. This also clearly has a barrel shorter than 7 inches and no bayonet lug. This was during the assault weapons ban. DPMS would have had, or at least had access to, a lot of front sight bases that had the bayonet lug removed because that was considered an assault weapons feature. The ability to accept a bayonet, which this isn't because the barrel is the wrong length. Everything else about this is what we expect to see from the old version of the Kitty Kat. So we've got the 1-in-9 twist, 4150 barrel. We can also see the options that you'd be able to choose from when ordering these things. For example, flat top receiver. This one is marked as an RFA2 Kitty Kat with the A2 carry handle, but of course for a small surcharge they would be happy to build one on a flat top for you. Elsewhere in the catalog we can see that they were still offering A1 receivers. We can also see that they at least had some of the slotted style, or as they say ribbed, not knurled, free float handguard tubes, although I don't see the pistol length version in here. That wouldn't show up until later on. Here in the 2010 catalog, we can see all of the different optional upgrades, which include such things as upgrading from a slick side to an A3 style for a cool $67, as well as upgrading or downgrading or side grading from an A3 to an A2 or an A2 to an A1, really whatever flavor of autism you wanted to buy. Here we have the barrels available in the 2010 catalog, including the 7-inch Kitty Kat barrel, this time with probably an actual 7-inch barrel and the bayonet lug intact. We can also see a little bit of that kind of anti-consumerist language saying that a 7-inch barrel requires a Class 3 license, when in reality, it's not true. It's just a barrel. Also in the 2010 catalog, we've got some handguards in various lengths, including a free-float quad rail that is specifically marked as Kitty Kat length. Alright, so here's my speculation about this. I bet that there are some A1 Kitty Kats actually made by DPMS out in the wild. I bet some guys, when ordering them, did specifically request or have it spec'd out with an A1, and I think DPMS was only happy to oblige because they did so much custom work to begin with. However, I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that they only ever had one style of barrel assembly for the Kitty Kats. So I bet even if you asked them to swap it into an A1, it was still going to come with the full profile barrel and the standard front sight base. I really only found one picture of an A1 Kitty Kat that I cannot confirm is even a factory DPMS, and it does appear to have the full profile barrel. So there probably never was such a thing as a DPMS factory Kitty Kat with the A1 style sight and the thin barrel. It's also probably the case that if you bought a DPMS Kitty Kat of a certain era, it would come with an A2 marked front sight base, even if you spec'd it with a flat top upper receiver. Kind of interesting to think about. At this point, I'm sure you're thinking, Hop, who cares about any of this? Well, I already told you in the intro, I do. I care about this so much. I've actually started augmenting my collection of firearms with a collection of old firearms magazines and catalogs, because a lot of this information is becoming increasingly difficult to find because the internet is rapidly decaying, and not everything is on ARFCOM. I mean, most stuff is, but not everything, not technically. Anyway, thank you for sticking with this, if in fact you did. If you'd like to support the channel, check out the links in the video description. I will see you guys next time. Nosedive. I don't think this gun likes this old Bushmaster magazine. Now that the round has been a little bit pancaked, it may not ever feed again. Let's try rotating it so the pancaked part is on the other side. It's better than nothing.